Hello, class. My name is Leah Castillo, and today I am presenting on historical fiction. And when I originally signed up, then I was excited because there's a lot of historical fiction chapter books that I love. It's probably one of my favorite genres is historical fiction. And as I was searching for which specific book I wanted to use, I actually came across a picture book that I feel like falls under the genre of historical fiction, and it's just really fun. So I thought it's a little bit different, and so I wanted to share it with you. And the name of this book is called John, Paul, George, and Ben, and it's by Lane Smith. And I want to show you a couple things that I love about it. Let's see. Well, it starts out, once there were four lads, John, Paul, George, and Ben. Make that five lads. There was also independent Tom, always off doing his own thing. So this tells the story of some of our founding fathers as children. And what I love about it is that it describes characteristics that they fictionally they are real people, obviously. So that's what makes it historical fiction, and it has the proper setting and accurately portrays the time period that they lived in. And it actually uses some authentic language and some more modern language. So it's more like the narrator has more modern language, and then some of the dialogue is in authentic language for that time period. I'm just going to read you a couple of them. Let's see, this one says, John was a bold lad. At the start of every school year, the students were asked to write their names on the chalkboard, and every year it was the same story. John, his teacher would say, you have lovely penmanship. John, your confidence is refreshing. But John, come on, we don't need to read it from space. And so we see like the authentic signature of John Hancock. And each one of the characters is portrayed like that, the historical figures. So Paul, for example, this is supposed to be Paul Revere, and it talks about before fun was invented, people joined bell ringing clubs. And as a member of Boston's Old North Church, Paul spent hours practicing in the Belfry Tower. So it has different references to their place in history. So like with Paul Revere and Old North Church. And it shows that over time, the ringing took a toll on him, so he couldn't hear well. And so he practically screamed. And so it also has some comedy. So like at his work, then he would be screaming, extra large underwear? Sure, we have some. Let's see. Large, extra large. And so all the people would be embarrassed by his screaming their orders and stuff like that. So it's really fun for kids. And it also, to me, it gives them something to really remember, because then it tells them it took many years and a midnight ride for people to finally appreciate his special talent. And so we see him writing, saying the redcoats are coming. I was a little disappointed because for George, it goes over the famed fable, I should say, about him being honest, admitting to cutting down the cherry tree. And it takes a little bit further, telling his father, oh, well, you'll be really rich because I have just cut down the apple orchard and your barn and your carriage. For Ben Franklin, then it goes over his many famous sayings and for advice for people, like fish and visitors stink after 3 days. And it talks about what a clever lad he was. And it so kind of goes over some of his different well-known sayings, that in the end, the people were really annoyed with him and said, please shut your big yap. I don't think that's very authentic language. But when it comes to Independent Tom, which might have been my favorite, then certain things like in school, he was asked to just build a birdhouse by gluing macaroni on it, but instead he did neoclassical architecture. So we see references to Monticello, and that the class was doing a palm tree, and he decided to draw his own kind of tree. So it has real sketches from Thomas Jefferson. And then when his teacher said, would you mind explaining to the class why you insist on working so independently? And he says, certainly. In fact, I've taken the liberty to list the very reasons. And so there's like a copy of, it looks like the Declaration of Independence, but it says, my my Declaration of Independence from idiotic classwork. So the teacher tells Mr. Douglas told him to pursue all the life, liberty, and happiness he wanted independently in the corner, and while the other students pursued lunch. So then after this just really fun story where you it's using real people from history, but it's fictionally telling stories about their childhood that will help you to relate to what they're famous for. That's what I like about the most about it. So kids will be like, oh, Paul Revere. Oh, that's right. He's the one who really loud yelled, the Redcoats are coming. Or Thomas Jefferson. He's the one who was so independent in that he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Or he, loved sketches of nature, and he was a real Renaissance man. He did architecture and everything. So at the end, then actually takes some of those myths that they used and clarifies them and tells a little bit more about each one of the men. And then also says taking liberties and explains what's true and what's false about the myths that they use in the book, and some of the myths in general about these men. So I felt like this had a really fun theme and style to it that could really engage children in a subject that children oftentimes are not, and I feel like it's skipped over. I feel like there's a lot of chapter books on historical fiction because it's usually something that older children can grasp. But that's what I liked about this, is that it can be for all ages, and it's fun and it brings history to life. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I appreciate all the comments and the fun that we've had this semester. Thank you.